Thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were looking at the controversies surrounding the Paris Club refund, the allegations, counter-allegations between the Governors Forum, the consultant, and also talking about the interest of the Attorney General of the Federation. And we have been speaking with lawyer and advocate for good governance, justice and equity, Liborous Oshoma. Liborous, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Right. Now, this matter is in court and it could swing either way. But for you, how do you think this will end?
I think parties should sit down at a round table. I will not know how it will end, considering the back and forth, the fireworks, the accusations, counter-accusations. I think parties should sit down at a round table. The federal government has set up a committee. I think it will also be in the best interest of that committee to invite the consultants, to also make their claim, their case, and then also the members of the committee, being members from the Federal Executive Council now, not members of the Governors Forum, also call on the members of the Governors Forum to make their representation. And then the committee can seek independent advice, from experts, in similar matters, and then so to be able to come at a decisive decision. And also, there are allegations of corruption that have been made. There is need for EFCC to investigate those angles of corruption, because the governors have accused the consultants of underhand dealings. Also, the consultants have also accused the governors of collecting money. And mind you, if you remember, it was alleged that the office of the Attorney General, the same Malami, in 2017, brokered that deal. So there's need for a thorough investigation by the EFCC in that regard. And if anybody is found culpable, because this 100 million is not part, it was alleged to have been paid, illegally to prosecute election. So that puts, certain persons at an advantage over their counterparts in the election. So if state funds are used to prosecute the election, there's need for a thorough investigation in that regard. When that is done and transparently seen to have been done, I think all parties, would accept the outcome of such a recommendation. And probably that might form the terms of judgment of the courts.
The $100 million issue is almost like the Nixon scandal, the Watergate scandal, where you try to get one over the other, using state funds to get advantage over the opposition. But that is not where my question is going. My question is, how do we limit the powers of attorney generals in this country? Because Malami is not the only one that has been guilty. We have had them, government after government, and they tend to take advantage of the law against justice. Even Malami, as we said, also was trying to put a judgment of a federal high court in the Gazette when the matter was set for appeal.
Exactly. You see, like you rightly acknowledged there, starting from, you remember, Andoka was almost a lord unto himself. Also, you had the Adokie, there were allegations against Adokie also. So this government, whilst in opposition, had advocated for a divorce between the office of the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice. The Minister for Justice would be the legal advisor, to the state or the federal government, while the Attorney General would be the chief law enforcer. And like you have in America, the office of the Attorney General is elected, So if you have a divorce between, these two offices, I think that will go a long way in also whittling down the powers of one man who doubles as Attorney General and the Minister for Justice. Because we say power corrupts and absolute power corrupt, absolutely. And then we also need to tweak the Constitution a little bit. The powers of the Attorney General are too enormous. a situation where you have attorney generals who, in some cases, in criminal matters, because the Constitution allows them to enter nolle prosecute without any reasons, in criminal matters against state interest, will enter a nolle prosecute and decide not to prosecute. We saw it in the case of Bola Ige or your state. Also, I think the Bar Association, should be involved in the appointment of an attorney general, so that we'll have an attorney general who will act in good faith. Because you will find a situation before now where the attorney general, almost the Bar Association becomes an appendage of the office of the attorney general, who firms out briefs to senior lawyers. But now, thank God to the current MBA led by Olumide Akpata, that's taking MBA away from the whips and caprices of the attorney general. But they still need more powers to be able to call an attorney general to order, prosecute an attorney general that has fallen out of line. But unfortunately, we have all compromised the process. You do not need a petition to the MBA for the MBA to submit a petition to the Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee to call an attorney general to order. But here, where poverty reigns supreme, when everybody runs to the attorney general for briefs, then it will be very difficult to investigate and prosecute such a man. So I think in the appointment in the first place, the bar should be involved in the appointment of who becomes an attorney general, so that you have an attorney general who will act in the interest of the country rather than self-interest. But a situation where the president just appoints whoever he wants. During screening in 2015, and Malami said he was first and foremost a lawyer. He became a businessman. Now he's a politician. I wonder what he means by that statement. Maybe he's no longer a lawyer, or that now he wants to play more politics than the law. But he should also remember that there is posterity beckons. Because recently, the Supreme Court also, was it the Supreme Court now or I think the Supreme Court gave a judgment against Andoka, restraining him from holding public office. He wanted to be governor in Benue State, but he thought that time would erase the atrocities he committed as Attorney General. Malami is on his own voyage today, but he should also remember that posterity beckons and time. All his atrocities are written in the sign of time.
Well,
but we must all get involved.
Yeah, Mr. Oshoma, I mean, it is the AGF today. Tomorrow it might be the governors and senators, and even Mr. President. So I'm just wondering, perhaps, how do we begin to create systems and structures that will work for us? I mean, some persons have questioned the system of government that we practice, the presidential system of government. I wonder, so how do we begin to create systems and structures? How do we begin to indeed improve institutions that would ensure that people are not stronger than such institutions?
You see, even in the next dispensation, it's going to be very difficult. Everybody, as I speak to you now, is fixated on who becomes president. Nobody's bothered about who becomes the governor. Nobody's bothered about who becomes the senator or who becomes the House of Assembly member. We're all fixated on who becomes the president, and we think that once a man becomes the president, he will solve all the problems of Nigeria with a magic wand. No, you have senators who will compromise. You have House of Assembly members, House of Rep members who will also compromise. You have a situation where certain persons will be appointed as ministers, and they will compromise, like the case of the current Attorney General that we're discussing. And you have consultants also who will be hanging around the corridors of power, looking for opportunity to make money. We all see, all of us, we all see government as an ATM. So once you have somebody up there, you believe it's your turn to also make something. Quickly, I must say this instructively. As I speak to you now, we've recently unbundled the petroleum industry. But has any of us bothered to find out what is happening in that industry? And all of the people that are appointed there, they are even worse than the current Attorney General that we're complaining about now. So what we should do, because all of us are involved, the upstream sector, as I speak with the edifice in Lagos, here, they have gone to Abuja to rent apartments, and now even looking for a way to ensure that the massive edifice owned by them in Abuja, in Lagos is abandoned. So, but what should we do? If we are not all involved in the electoral process, because you are not a human being except government says you are. You can't be broadcasting except government gives you a license to broadcast. You cannot operate a business except government incorporates you and give you a certificate of incorporation. You can't even own a bank. So the people that are going to take this decision to determine whether you live or not are those in government. And when it comes to electing them, we throw caution to the wind. We compromise. We collect money. We say we pander to religion. We pander to ethnicity and leave out competence, only for us to turn around and complain later. We need to understand that the only way we participate in government is when we all participate in leadership selection processes. And look at people with track record, look at people with credibility, look at people with precedence of what they had done before, and not just get carried away with sentiments and rabble-rousing, and at the end of the day, only for you to turn around and complain later. So that's why you have all of these powers, entrenched in one man who is the president, and then you have powers entrenched in the governors who have become emperors, and they do as they like. And anytime they leave office and you have security agencies or the economic and financial crime agencies going after them, we, the people who they have stolen from, will be the one to complain. Until we are ready to determine who governs us, to be part and parcel of the process of selecting leadership, we will keep going around in this circle. And I don't see, I must say, I will burst your bubble, I do not see any hope in the near future with the way we are still going. Imagine this day and age we are discussing religion. Oh, Christian, Muslim. Nobody is asking the question, what are your actualizable plans and dates for if you become the president? What do you understand by policies? How do you intend to handle the concurrent and the exclusive legislative list? How do you intend to devolve powers to the smaller units? How do you intend to ensure that there's autonomy for local government, there's financial, fiscal federalism? What do you understand by gender equality? What do you understand by fuel subsidy? How do you intend to deal with the issue of Ruga and all of this? Nobody's asking those questions. We're just banding figures and then, shout slogans and then
Liborous, I believe that Nigerians are beginning to be awakened by the realities that we face in the country and are beginning to be more aware of all of the
issues. Are you sure? The awareness, it's about slogans.
Right. Now, one quick question before we let you go is the aspect of, still talking about institutions, the EFCC investigating the corruption allegations that you mentioned. You talked about transparency in carrying out that investigation. I wonder if you are confident that the EFCC will be able to deliver on that.
If without interference from the same federal government, I have confidence that the EFCC will be able to deliver on these allegations, because you find that, look at without trying to knock the police, look at the case of the Accountant General of the Federation, for example. If it were the police, you hear of an allegations and then the police will say they are investigating. Before we heard of the allegation, the man had been arrested and swiftly the matter had been charged. There are people who are culpable, including this as Abdulaziz Yari's group, the AGF, the NGF. Then you had Bureau de Change people who were part of the conduit. You had special advisors in the office of the Accountant General. You also had commissioners of finance in 9 states. But now it is left for us to ensure that we consistently keep that matter under the top burner. EFCC had done well. Kudos to them. They're doing what they ought to do. For the EFCC, I know that their modus operandi is to investigate, do a conclusive investigation, even before making an arrest, because I've handled petition with them. But you have cases also where there are compromises here and there in certain cases, if there are interference. Take, for example, the case of Theodore Oji. Petition had been with EFCC for God knows how long. Till date, there are no conclusive investigations. So if there are compromise, if there are interference from the federal government, then EFCC would compromise the matter. But for this, that is a national disgrace and it's taking an international dimension, I think that if EFCC is called upon to conduct an investigation, and the same Attorney General and the Office of the Presidency does not interfere, then I believe that the EFCC will be able to do a thorough job, despite the fact that there are allegations that the chairman of EFCC was his appointment was influenced by the Attorney General. I know the young man would, has an independent mind and would be able to do a thorough job.
Liborous, the way the NGF is going about it today, you would think that they are absolutely innocent of anything. But it's clear that there's no innocent party in this dispute over $418 million.
No, there are no innocent parties. There are no innocent parties because if all had played out well and all of the compromises had been met, we would not have heard of these allegations and counter-allegations. Because if the AGF, the NGF, the Nigerian Governors Forums, were innocent, they probably wouldn't have collected the 100 million that they were alleged to have collected, when the funds were first and foremost paid. And then also, they wouldn't be appointing consultants here and there to do the job that ordinarily, you don't need consultants to do in cases where funds have been returned. They're already in the coffers of the federal government for deductions. So elections is approaching. There is palpable fear in the land. Some persons want money. Others also want money for personal use. Others want money to prosecute election. So all of these shouts, I say, it's not about the common man. It's about personal interest. And some governors also are exiting office very soon. So if you begin to make deductions at this point, what is left, to be stolen will not be that much. So all of this, that's why you see all of this multiplicity of litigation for a matter that parties can sit down with an arbitrator and resolve.
So in this case, what we have as consultants are actually the Agbero syndrome. Who doesn't bring the customer, or the passenger to the vehicle, but is the one that just says, okay, are you going to Ibadan? Come and enter this vehicle. Whereas you already know that the car is waiting for you and you just walk there without the Agbero.
Yes, to some extent, some of the consultants are the Agbero syndrome, where you already have funds that have been recovered and then you appoint consultants. And because also the State Houses of Assembly are an appendage of the governor's office, extension of the governor's office. So you have a situation, there's already an answer. So just provide the question and work from the answer to the question. That's what happened in some cases. And that's why now that there is a quagmire, and that's why you're hearing all these shouts, allegations and counter-allegations. And that's why Ned Nwoko was bold enough to make that claim, that allegation that indeed more than 100 million was demanded. The Office of the Attorney General, helped in brokering the compromise, and $100 million was paid. So what you have is the people, a connivance between people who should guarantee our welfare, now be the one plundering our welfare. And it's really, really, really quite unfortunate. And the time for us to sit down and begin to look at the fine lines from who becomes local government chairman, because the local government from 2017 or so had been alleged to have collectively shared $1.3 billion, while the state governors have been alleged to collectively share $10 billion of this recovered fund. But if you look at the economic generally, you look at the local government level, you will not find where such an amount had been used in any of the local governments in Nigeria. You will not find where 10 billion naira had been deployed collectively in any of the states in Nigeria. So that's why all of these allegations are coming up, because it really, had nothing to do with the common man.
All right. We must thank you, lawyer and advocate for good governance, justice and equity, Liborous Oshoma, for your time on the program.
Thank you.